And the new Ofsted changes following the suicide of head teacher Ruth Perry. We'll talk live to her sister. What does she think of the proposed new system? Next, Ofsted has announced proposals for new rules for school inspections in England. Schools did used to get outstanding, good, requires improvement and inadequate when inspected. This was scrapped last year following criticism of the system after the death of the head teacher Ruth Perry. Mrs Perry took her own life after an Ofsted report downgraded her primary school in Reading from the highest rating of outstanding to its lowest rating, inadequate, over safeguarding concerns. A coroner concluded the inspection in 2022 contributed to Mrs Perry's death. In future, schools will be given a report card like this one, in which 9 key areas, yes, put your glasses on to have a look at that, including leadership or behaviour, will each be graded on a 5-point scale from causing concern to exemplary. We'll talk to Ruth Perry's sister in a moment. First, here's the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, talking earlier today about the government's new proposals.
Our proposals will swap single headline grades for the rich, granular insight of school report cards, raising the bar on what we expect from schools, shining a light on the areas that matter, each given their own grade, identifying excellence and rooting out performance that falls short of expectations, so that parents have clearer, better information about their local schools.
Well, let's talk now to Professor Julia Waters. Thank you very much for being with us on Newsnight. These changes are happening because your sister took her own life. Are these new proposals an improvement on the old system in your view?
To me, it just looks like they are the old system rehashed with a rather alarming colour coding to emphasise those 1- and 2-word judgments which are being kept to judge schools. I don't believe for one moment that there has been the input of mental health and suicide prevention experts into the creation of this system.
Do you know that for sure?
Well, I don't believe that any suicide prevention expert would condone a system that has a traffic light system with the areas of concern highlighted before the areas of strength, for instance. And when in the past the Education Select Committee last year, after their parliamentary inquiry, recommended doing away with single word judgments, they recommended that Ofsted and the DfE look at other examples of school accountability systems. They did not say, let's have 5 single or 2-word judgments to replace the 1.
So this system wouldn't have made any difference to your sister because it's still putting stress on teachers. Is that the point?
It is still putting stress on teachers. I mean, there are changes that they are proposing, like removing safeguarding from the leadership and management category, that is a very sensible thing to do. Mm-hmm. It's one that I had asked for, that I had pushed for, clarifying what is meant actually by safeguarding. You know, there are things in there that are good and that are moves in the right direction, or changes that have already been implemented that are being kept. But there are areas that I do not feel have been properly addressed. The impact of inspection upon the well-being of teachers and head teachers should be at the centre of these reforms,
but it's not. Is there any system anywhere which involves an inspection which isn't going to mean some pressure on teachers?
Of course there's always pressure, but it's where that pressure is disproportionate. It's where the consequences of an inspection that is there for 2 days can mean the end of a head teacher's job, their career, the public shaming and humiliation that goes with that. Mm. And I find it frankly galling that a system that's all about the accountability of schools has no checks and balances of its own. Ofsted in this new system has not heeded calls to strengthen its own accountability. And if I may, I found it deeply ironic that the definition of not meeting safeguarding, according to this new measure, this new proposal, is that there is a closed culture, that leaders are not open to challenge and do not learn from issues and incidents. that could be a description of Ofsted's response to my sister's death.
You have fought so hard since your sister's death, for your sister. It sounds like you are going to keep fighting.
Until I feel that there's real change, I don't feel I have any choice but to keep fighting. Yes, I'm doing it because what happened to Ruth was a terrible injustice and was preventable. And I'm doing it for all the teachers and head teachers out there who have been contacting me in their hundreds, telling me about the terrible pressures and stress that Ofsted causes to them. And if the government is sincere about wanting to recruit more teachers, it needs to do something urgently about one of the main causes for the retention problem we have, why teachers and head teachers are leaving education in their droves.
Thank you very much for talking to our audience tonight. Thank you,
Thank you.
Professor Julia Waters.